All right, a list of guys who didn't make the list but would be honorable mentions. You got Joe Alt, off stack for the Chargers, Cooper DeJean, Xavier Worthy, Jordan Addison, Brian Branch, Edgerrin Cooper, Lad McConkey, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Kirby Joseph, George Karlaftis, Sam Laporta, Tyler Smith, Trayvon Walker, Jamison Williams, Devon Witherspoon, Nick Bolton. Who put Nick Bolton on this list? Braden Fisk, Tyler Linderbaum, Jack Campbell, Bo Nix. Anyone you would make a case for, I already made a case for Tyler Linderbaum, but anyone else you'd make a case for to make this top 25 that didn't make it?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just reviewing this list here. And the first one that I see is Tyler Smith. I love Tyler Smith. Dominant badass in the run game, more than effective pass blocker. And it also makes me understand and think about, we call the Dallas Cowboys America's team. But it's really America's punching bag. We just love to make fun of the Cowboys. It's not like they're on ESPN every day pumping up the Cowboys, or, me and Pete Prisco and Mike Renner. We're not just in there talking good about the Cowboys all the time. And it rains on the parade of guys like Tyler Smith, who are great football players, who have a lot of fantastic football ahead. The other guy, Cooper DeJean, come on now. Love some Cooper DeJean. George Karlaftis, great player. I don't know if he led the Chiefs in sacks, but I don't know if the production's there to be on this list. And Kirby Joseph, we'll make an argument for Kirby Joseph for sure. And then Jordan Addison's good, but I think Joe Alt is a guy that you want on this list.
Yeah, if we're saying this is the top 25 and 25 for this upcoming season, who is, I would bet good money Joe Alt's like a top 3 right tackle in the NFL this upcoming season. I would be very surprised if he's not, given what we saw as a rookie, given how rare it was to be as good as he was as a rookie, just given his track record. Yeah, I'm right there with you. The one that jumped out to me is just like stupid that he didn't make this list, which is crazy because of the Lions glazing that already happened in the top 10. We had, so many guys in the top 10. Brian Branch.
Yeah.
The safety. You could argue he was, once Aiden Hutchinson went out, their best player last year. Now, obviously, he's got kicked out of games. He has some hits, and he's probably 1 or 2 more of those away from a big-time suspension in the NFL, given his track record. But when he's on the football field, guy doesn't miss tackles. Guy doesn't miss assignments. He is unbelievable football player. Brian Branch, to me, not just should have made top 25. He should have been like top 15.
How about Alim McNeill?
Alim, unfortunately, would have been had he not torn his ACL. Another guy that you would think.
We're putting a bunch of IR guys on the list. You may as well throw in a guy like Alim McNeill. Who's
the Lions, though, again, shout out to Brad Holmes. The amount of guys we're debating, like Kirby Joseph, like Brian Branch, like Jack Campbell, like Jamison Williams, their draft track record is in the rarefied air. Historically, he's been on one of the best heaters of all time. All right, let's get to this. No linebackers in the top 25. Why do we think that is, one? And 2, is there any guy that you see joining that list next season?
God, I'd have to go take a look at the names for under 25. That's not a Rolodex that I have ready in my head, but I'm thinking about the positional favoritism on these lists. And it is interesting there's no linebackers. I would imagine it's hard to evaluate linebacker because there's so many responsibilities. So, unless you're a guy that's just making 200 tackles a year, that's easy to see. Okay, that guy's great at linebacker. Or a guy like Fred Warner, who is great at everything. It's like it stands out on film to you. But there are guys who are in this league that play linebacker that, for the casual, I'm saying the casual fan at home, they don't know their names, that are damn good at linebacker. I wonder what Pete has against the position. Or who is this? Cody Benjamin?
Yes. I think it is actually. I don't think it's unfair to not include linebacker. I think there's a few things at play. I thought if Jacoby didn't hurt his knee, you could have considered him for this list. For what he did in his first year as a starter, projecting out to the second year, I think you could say he could have been a top 25 player. But I do think there is I'll say two big things. One is that it's very difficult to play linebacker in today's NFL. Even the best will get completely clowned sometimes by virtue of how difficult it is, how much eye candy you have to deal with. And I think that's why for guys 25 and under, it's a tough position to transition to the NFL. You just need to see a bunch of football, a bunch of these plays, a bunch of these options, a bunch of, pre-snap motion to feel comfortable playing fast. So that's why I think very few separate themselves at all. And then it's even harder for young guys to really master the position. So the learning curve, or sort of the performance curve, is trending closer to more cerebral positions like quarterback, where it's like, man, this might take a guy 3 or 4 years to actually get to being good at it. Unlike running back or wide receiver, where it's just like, yeah, I got my assignment. If I'm athletic enough, if I'm talented enough, it works right away. So I think that's the case. The one guy I would say, Edgerrin Cooper, Green Bay Packers, what I saw from him as a rookie,
freaky
what
production.
he is as an athlete, I think there's a chance he enters that conversation this upcoming season, but obviously that's based off of half a season where he wasn't necessarily a full-time player towards the end, but Edgerrin Cooper looks like he's got the goods.
I did this with Ryan Wilson the other day. We were talking about breakout players, and I put Edgerrin Cooper as a breakout player because he only played half the season. If you were to double all of his stats from last year,
oh yeah,
you would have the best season ever for a linebacker. He would have had 7 sacks, 2 interceptions, 170 tackles. You know what I mean? Forced fumbles. He was everywhere. He was like your Madden My Player that you control, just making all the plays with. I love the Edgerrin Cooper shout out.
All right. No rookies on this list. But if you were to include rookies, do you think there's anyone that would make the top 25?
The way you've talked about T-Mac makes that the guy that I'm going to put on the list.
Okay.
I know how important it is to be physically gifted in football, and he is physically gifted. I mean, there's some things you can't teach. Like at the linebacker position, you need to see 1 million reps to become Luke Kuechly mentally. As a receiver, go be a freak, man. Go be a freak. Go be bigger than them. We're going to get you the ball. I like T-Mac, and I think he's somebody they're going to lean on heavily in that offense.
Yeah, he's also in a great spot to produce. I would throw Ashton Genty on there. I've raved about what he is as a prospect. I think there's a good chance he's top 5 running back in the NFL from day one. I also think Abdul Carter has a chance. Obviously, rushing the passer, always difficult in the NFL to transition right out the gate, especially
not
when
for
you're
him.
Green as him. Yeah, well, not when you're that freaky, right? When you're Micah Parsons, when you're Abdul Carter, when you got the goods, it happens. But he's only played a year of edge in his career, right? He was off-ball linebacker first 2 years at Penn State. So relatively raw compared to a guy coming out as a 5th year like Jared Verse was. But I think Abdul Carter is a real shot that he is that early on. All right, guys who necessarily weren't on this list or didn't deserve to be on this list given their play last year, but you see making a big leap into getting on this list. Who do you think?
Center, Las Vegas Raiders, Jackson Powers Johnson. I'm not sure how old he's going to be next year, but my luck, he's probably
no. He was a junior coming out. He was young coming out, so
he's probably going to be 26 next year with my luck. Look, the keystone for every great running game is a center who understands leverage, who has wide shoulders, and who's got a little nasty to him, and has the ability to communicate well with his guards and his whole offensive line room. I like the way Jackson Powers Johnson plays. I think there's certain guys that are built physically to play the game of football. Like I look at Creed Humphrey, he's just a square. He's built like a Lego man. That's how JPJ is. And I obviously watched him in college as well. And I think with Ashton Genty, with their balanced formations this year, being in 12 a lot, you're going to see a lot of opportunities for JPJ to puff his chest out a bit in the running game. I think it's going to be one of the Raiders' favorite players next year.
So to me, we've probably discussed this before. Most positions frame is not the end all be all. Like you can be good. Dominic Puny comes to mind. And to your offensive line, you can be good with a shitty frame. You don't have to necessarily look the part. But when a guy truly does look the part, like when he is built, and you look at Jackson Powers Johnson, you're just like, good Lord, that's an interior offensive lineman. He came out the womb ready to be
like Richie Incognito.
Yes, Richie. Oh my God, that's the exact comp. I think that was my comp for him in the draft guide last year when I was coming out. Was just that is a build that when you're the same width at your shoulders,
built like a Jack Daniels barrel.
Just it is tough to get by that guy in tight quarters. So when you really truly have the perfect build, and you know the way he carries it, it's not fat, it's just thick wrap muscle on that frame. When you have that build, those are the guys that you're like, yeah, I'll buy into that. I feel good that that's going to work out at the NFL level.
And maybe Alim McNeill, but we already talked about that.
All right. Last one here. Are there any late bloomers? So guys who are year 4, year 5, who really haven't shown, like you would never argue right now. Like I said, Joe Alt as a guy who's going to make the jump. Joe Alt, obviously, year 1 to year 2, everyone expects that. But guys who maybe are later on, who you think just another bump in their performance, and we're putting them on this list.
Well, I loved the pick that you're going to go with here shortly, but I went with a guy who's going to be in his second year. I know you're saying 3rd, 4th, 5th year guys, but I think Rome Odunze is going to absolutely explode this year for the Chicago Bears. And I was so tired of Sunday night and Monday morning after watching the Bears games. I would go and watch all the routes that Rome won, and the ball wasn't in his hands. And I know that happens a lot in the NFL, and there's a lot of mouths to be fed. But they watch the film too, and they know that he's open, and Caleb knows that he's open. And I think that he's going to explode onto the scene from a statistics standpoint this year.
Yeah, he realistically, I mean, from like a play perspective, yeah, I people thought he was. I mean, the Bears, there was a portion of Bears fans, I'm not going to lump them all together. There's a portion of Bears fans that were upset with the pick. And to me, you're out of your mind if you're upset with that pick. Obviously, it didn't work out last year, but I don't care who you would have drafted. Shit was not working out last year. He is exactly as advertised. NFL ready route runner, gets open at will. Maybe not the dynamism of a Malik Neighbors, maybe not the dynamism of a Brian Thomas Jr., but reliable as can be.
And smooth. If you make it look that easy, if you can make anything look that easy, you're pretty damn good at it.
By the end of the season, I think he was the best wide receiver on the Bears. And I fully expect him to be the best wide receiver on the Bears this year. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I also picked a Bear. And I picked Darnell Wright.
Woo!
Right tackle. Just the progression from, I mean, because physically the guy is a bear. He has all you want to be that power right tackle in the Ben Johnson scheme. I mean, to be Penei Sewell, right? To be that guy who just caves in the right side on duo, snap after snap. He can be that. And the progression from junior year at Tennessee to senior year, massive leap. Senior year to rookie year in the NFL, where he held his own as a rookie. And then rookie year to second year, where he made a big leap. He was the Bears' best offensive lineman a year ago. He keeps going that trajectory. He's on this list next year. And he's only 23 right now. So he could have 2 appearances on this list next season and the year after. Was pretty young for a senior coming out of Tennessee. So Darnell Wright's my pick. I think Charles Cross could be there as well. He'll be 25 next season or after next season. So that's my pick for a guy who could surprise.
I really love the Darnell Wright pick, and I am a homer, but as somebody who spent a lot of time on the right side of that offensive line, I remember when I was at my most comfortable is when there was continuity positionally. You know, you're playing next to the same guy week in, week out. Hopefully,
you didn't want Nate Davis next to you, quitting halfway through the game.
Hopefully, with Jonah in town and some continuity there at the right guard position, Darnell can really settle in, and you'll start to see a guy not only be able to tread water and stay above water, but he could be dominating here in short order.
Well, I hope not, but we'll see. So that's today's show. You're 25 under 25. We will be back next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, keep pushing.